I didn't expect anything unusual when I noticed my girlfriend, Emily, being glued to her phone. At first, I brushed it off. Everyone's always on their phone these days, right? But it started happening more often. She was texting all the time, giggling at messages she wouldn't show me, and started working late more than usual. One night, she told me she was going out with friends, but something about the way she said it felt off. I tried to let it go, but curiosity got the better of me. The next day, I casually asked about her plans. She mentioned hanging out with her girlfriends. No big deal, I thought. But then that evening, I noticed she was still glued to her phone, smiling at messages from someone named Jake. This guy kept popping up in her conversations, and I was starting to think maybe there was more to this friendship than she was letting on. I wasn't proud of what I did next, but I checked her phone while she was in the shower. The messages weren't overly romantic, but they were definitely flirty. Stuff like, "Last night was fun. Can't wait to see you again." My gut told me something was seriously wrong, but confronting her based on just a few messages didn't feel right, at least not yet. I needed more information before I made any accusations, and I was determined to find out what was really going on. After seeing those texts, my mind was racing. I wanted to confront Emily right then and there, but I knew I needed more proof. If I came at her with half-baked suspicions, she'd probably just deny everything, call me paranoid, and somehow make me feel like I was the bad guy. So I decided to play it cool. Over the next few days, I kept my eyes and ears open. I started paying closer attention to the details. Emily's work hours seemed to stretch longer and longer. She was going out more often, always claiming it was with friends, but I never saw any evidence of that. And then there was the issue with Jake. She'd never mentioned him before, and suddenly, they were texting all the time. It didn't add up. One night, while she was asleep, I went through her phone again. This time, I found more texts from Jake, but still nothing concrete. They seemed to be flirting, but they didn't cross any obvious lines. But there was something else. An event in her calendar for the upcoming weekend. Dinner with Jay. She hadn't mentioned any dinner plans to me. I decided I had to find out what was really going on. I figured if she was cheating, this dinner was probably a good opportunity to catch her in the act. So, I made up an excuse that I had to work late that night and told her to enjoy her evening. Meanwhile, I was planning to follow her and see for myself what was happening. It was a risky move, but I was ready to find out the truth, no matter what it was. The night of the dinner came, and I was ready. I had told Emily I was working late, which she didn't question at all. Probably too focused on her own plans. She got all dressed up, looking nicer than usual for what was supposed to be a dinner with friends. I watched her leave, my stomach in knots, trying to keep my cool. I gave her a little bit of a head start and then headed out to follow her. I felt like I was in some kind of cheap detective movie, creeping along in my car, trying not to get too close. I felt ridiculous, but I needed to know. She drove across town, pulled into a nice restaurant, and parked. I parked a few spots back, far enough that she wouldn't notice me but close enough to see what was going on. I watched as she got out of the car, casually checked her phone, and headed inside. About 10 minutes later, I saw him, Jake. He pulled up in a sleek car, dressed sharp, and walked into the restaurant. There was no mistaking it now. She had lied to me, and she was having dinner with this guy. My heart was pounding, but I needed to see more. I wasn't ready to confront them yet. I decided to wait a bit, see if I could catch them in a more incriminating situation. I waited for what felt like forever, watching through the restaurant window from my car. After about an hour, they came out. But what I saw next confused me even more. They hugged, but it wasn't romantic. It was quick, almost like a business handshake. Then they both got into their cars and drove off in different directions. What the hell was that? I sat in my car, staring at the restaurant, trying to make sense of what I'd just seen. It wasn't the passionate affair I had expected. It looked almost professional. But why would she lie to me about having dinner with a friend if it wasn't something shady? I followed her home, my mind racing. When I got back, Emily was already inside, lounging on the couch like nothing had happened. She gave me a smile and asked how my late work went. I felt a wave of anger rise up in me, but I forced myself to play it cool. I wasn't ready to blow everything up yet. I needed to figure out what the hell was going on first. Over the next few days, I kept my suspicions to myself but started digging into things. I went through her phone when she wasn't looking, something I'm not proud of. But at that point, I felt like I didn't have a choice. I saw that she and Jake had exchanged several messages over the past month. But nothing looked explicitly romantic. They talked about meeting up, mentioned progress, and shared details that sounded businesslike. There were no flirty emojis, no pet names, no heart emojis. It was confusing as hell. Then one night, she left her laptop open, and that's when I found it. The file that made my blood run cold. A folder full of documents, spreadsheets, and notes all tied to Jake's name. And the worst part? It looked like they were making plans to move somewhere. Together. This wasn't just cheating. This was something way worse. She was planning to leave me, and it looked like she had been setting it up for months behind my back. But why was it so businesslike? What were they planning? I needed to confront her, but I needed to be smart about it that I couldn't take it anymore. The secrecy, the strange conversations, the way she acted like everything was normal. That night, I decided it was time to confront her. I waited until we were both sitting on the couch, watching some random show that neither of us was paying attention to. My heart was pounding, but I knew I had to do this. "Emily, we need to talk," I said, turning off the TV. She looked at me surprised. "What's up?" I took a deep breath. "I know something's going on with you and Jake. I've seen the messages, I know about the meetings. What I don't get is why you lied to me. Are you planning on leaving me?" Her face went pale, and for a moment, she didn't say anything. Then she laughed. An odd, nervous laugh. "It's not what you think, I swear." I crossed my arms, my anger bubbling to the surface. "Then what the hell is it? Why are you sneaking around, lying about who you're with, and planning things with Jake behind my back?" She hesitated, and for a second, I thought she might confess to everything. But then she said something that threw me completely off guard. "It's work-related. Jake's not just some random guy. I've been working with him on a side project." "Side project?" I repeated, my voice full of doubt. "What kind of project are you working on that you had to lie about?" Her eyes darted away, avoiding my gaze. "It's complicated. I didn't want to tell you until things were more settled because, well, I knew you'd freak out." I didn't believe her for a second. This was more than a work project. This was personal. But I could tell she wasn't ready to tell me the full truth. And I wasn't going to let her off the hook so easily. "Tell me everything," I demanded, trying to keep my voice calm. "Because I'm done playing games." Emily bit her lip, and I could see her mind racing, trying to figure out what to say. Finally, she sighed, leaning back on the couch. "All right, fine. I didn't want to tell you because it's not just about work. There's more to it." I felt my chest tighten. "More? Like what?" She hesitated, then blurted out, "Jake and I are starting a business together. That's why I've been meeting with him so much. We're launching an app." I blinked, completely caught off guard. "An app? Seriously?" "Yes. It's something we've been working on for months. That's why I've been so secretive. It's a huge deal, and I didn't want to say anything until it was ready. I know I should have told you, but I thought you'd judge me." I stared at her, my mind spinning. An app? This was definitely not the answer I was expecting. But it still didn't explain the lies, the strange behavior, or why she was so close to Jake. Something still felt off. "So, you've been working on an app with Jake, and that's why you've been sneaking around behind my back?" I asked, my voice still heavy with suspicion. Emily nodded, but she couldn't meet my eyes. "Yeah, I didn't want you to think I was doing something wrong. I was afraid you wouldn't understand." I didn't know what to say. On one hand, it was kind of a relief that it wasn't what I originally thought. But on the other hand, it still felt like she was hiding something from me. And the way she was talking about Jake, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this story. "Why didn't you just tell me?" I asked, shaking my head. "I would have supported you if this is really about work." "I didn't think you would," she muttered, looking away. I thought you'd get jealous or try to stop me from doing it. Jealous? I wasn't the jealous type. But the fact that she thought I would react that way stung. There was still something she wasn't telling me, and I needed to figure out what it was. Her explanation didn't sit right with me. Sure, starting a business could explain some of the secrecy, but it didn't add up to all the strange behavior I'd seen. It was like she was giving me just enough information to calm me down without telling me the full story. I pressed further. So all those late nights? The canceled plans? The weekends when you said you were working with Jake? That was all for this app? She nodded, but there was hesitation. Yes, it's been intense. We're working hard to get it off the ground. Okay, I replied, trying to sound reasonable. But if it's just a business, why wouldn't you have told me earlier? Why lie about where you were? Emily's face flushed, and she shifted uncomfortably. Because I didn't want you to ask too many questions. I didn't want you to get involved. Now it was my turn to be confused. Involved? What do you mean? Emily looked down, avoiding eye contact. It's not just a business for me. This could change my life. I've been thinking about what I want for my future, and this app is part of that. And Jake, he's been really supportive. He believes in me. There it was, Jake again. The way she said his name made my stomach twist. I couldn't help but feel like there was more to their relationship than she was admitting. So, what does that mean for us? I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. Emily sighed, rubbing her temples. It means, I don't know. I don't know where things are going. I care about you, but this project is my priority right now. And Jake, he's been there for me in a way I didn't expect. Her words hung in the air like a bomb that had just been dropped. I felt my heart sink. It wasn't just the app. It wasn't just about business. She was getting closer to Jake emotionally, maybe even more than that, and she wasn't even denying it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The weight of Emily's words hit me like a ton of bricks. I stood there, stunned, trying to process what she was really saying. She didn't outright admit to anything, but her hesitation, the way she talked about Jake, and the shift in her priorities all pointed to one thing. She was drifting away from me, and it had everything to do with him. So, what are you saying? I asked, my voice trembling with frustration and sadness. Are you saying you're more invested in this business and your relationship with Jake than in us? Emily winced at my words, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she took a deep breath and said, it's not about choosing one over the other. It's just, I need space to figure things out. This project is important to me, and Jake has been a huge part of that. I don't want to hurt you, but I need to focus on myself right now. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. And what am I supposed to do while you figure things out? Just sit around and wait for you to decide whether I'm still a part of your life. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Her silence spoke volumes. The reality of the situation hit me hard. She wasn't ready to commit to us anymore. Jake had become more than just a business partner, and I was the one left standing in the shadows. Look, I never meant for things to get this complicated, Emily finally said, her voice soft, almost apologetic. I do care about you, but I need to be honest with myself. And with you. I don't know if I can give you the relationship you deserve right now. I felt a burning anger rise in me, but it was mixed with an overwhelming sense of sadness. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had been with for years, was slipping away right in front of me. And there was nothing I could do about it. Without another word, I turned and walked out. I didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear. This relationship wasn't the same anymore. And deep down, I knew that things with Emily and Jake were far from over. I spent the next few days in a haze, barely eating or sleeping. My mind was consumed by thoughts of Emily and Jake, replaying our conversation over and over. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her hesitation, her evasiveness. I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was going on between them, something more than just a business partnership. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers, and I knew the only way to get them was to confront Jake. The thought of it made me sick to my stomach, but I couldn't just sit around while my relationship unraveled. I needed to hear it from him, whatever it was. I tracked Jake down at the office building where he and Emily worked. It wasn't hard to find him. He was always around, conveniently close to Emily. When I saw him coming out of the building, I walked straight up to him, my heart pounding. "Jake," I called out. He stopped and turned, a look of mild surprise on his face. "We need to talk." He raised an eyebrow, looking slightly amused, which only fueled my anger. "What's up, man? Something wrong?" I could feel the heat rising in my chest. "You know damn well what's wrong," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want to know what's really going on between you and Emily." Jake blinked, then smirked, as if he'd been expecting this all along. "Look, man, I don't want to get in the middle of your relationship, but if you're asking whether Emily and I are close, well, we've been working together a lot. She's great, you know?" His casual tone set me off. "Cut the crap, Jake. I'm not stupid. There's more to this than just work. So what is it? Are you two involved?" Jake hesitated for a split second, just long enough for me to catch it. That was all I needed. His smirk faded, and he took a step back, as if he knew he'd let something slip. "Look," he said finally, his voice quieter. "Emily and I have a connection. We've spent a lot of time together, and yeah, things have gotten complicated. But whatever happens, that's up to Emily. You should talk to her." I stared at him, my blood boiling. So this was it. My worst suspicions were confirmed. Jake had crossed the line, and Emily had let him. Without another word, I turned and walked away, my mind reeling. Jake's words echoed in my head. That's up to Emily. It was clear now. The relationship I thought I had was slipping through my fingers, and Emily was the one letting it go. After talking to Jake, I was more confused than ever. I knew something was off, but I didn't fully understand the extent of what I was dealing with. It didn't make sense. How could Emily, the woman I trusted, betray me like this? I needed the truth, and there was only one person who could give it to me. Emily herself. That night, I called her, and when she picked up, I could tell something was different. There was a hesitation in her voice, like she knew what was coming. I didn't waste any time. "I talked to Jake," I said bluntly. "I know about you too. I want to know what's going on." There was silence on the other end of the line, and for a moment I thought she might hang up. But then she spoke, her voice shaky. "It's not what you think." I didn't want to hear excuses. I was past that point. "Don't lie to me, Emily. Just tell me the truth. What's really going on?" She sighed deeply, and then I heard her say something I wasn't prepared for. I didn't want to hurt you, but Jake, he's been helping me with something important, something that I couldn't share with you. I didn't want to drag you into it." I paused. "What do you mean? What's so important that you had to hide it from me?" Emily's voice cracked. "It's about my past. The reason I've been distant, the reason I've been so secretive. I'm not who you think I am, and I've been trying to protect you from all of it. Jake's been helping me with my family." I froze. Family? What the hell was she talking about? "Your family?" I repeated. "You've been keeping something from me about your family?" She started to explain, but it didn't make any sense. Apparently, Emily had grown up in a dangerous environment, something I never knew about. She had a family involved in some illegal activities, and Jake, who I thought was just her coworker, had been helping her deal with it. They were trying to clean up some mess that her family had gotten her tangled up in. Something that involved a lot of shady people. "I didn't want you involved," Emily continued. "I thought if you knew the truth, it would put you in danger, so I pushed you away. I thought if you didn't know, you'd be safe." I was in shock. All these months, I thought it was just her being distant, but it wasn't that at all. Emily was involved in something much darker than I ever imagined. And Jake, he wasn't just some guy at work, he was in the middle of it with her. So, all of this, the secrecy, the weird vibe, it was all because of some dangerous family mess you've been hiding? I asked, trying to process everything. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted this to affect you. I never wanted to hurt you." Her confession hit me harder than I expected. I thought the betrayal was just about cheating, But now I realized there was so much more to it. My entire understanding of who Emily was had just been shattered. She wasn't the woman I thought I knew. And Jake? He wasn't the innocent guy I assumed he was either. I didn't know how to feel. All I knew was that the trust one once had in Emily was gone. She had kept me in the dark, and now I was left to pick up the pieces of what was once a future together. After Emily's confession, I didn't know what to do. My head was spinning. I thought I understood the situation, but now I was questioning everything. Emily's explanation made it clear she wasn't just cheating for the sake of it. There was something bigger at play, a tangled web of family drama, crime, and deception that had kept her from me. But could I forgive her for keeping me in the dark? I needed space. I told Emily I'd need some time to think, and I hung up. The next few days were a blur of confusion and frustration. I wanted to believe her, but the trust between us was broken, and I couldn't just ignore what had happened. I spent hours on the phone with my friends, trying to piece everything together. Some said I should walk away. They argued that no matter the reason, the fact that she had kept this from me was unforgivable. Others said I needed to understand the circumstances. She was trying to protect me, but how much was too much protection? I couldn't stop thinking about Jake. He wasn't just an innocent bystander in all of this. He had been actively involved in helping her with whatever family issues she had. I didn't know if I could trust him either. And if I were to continue this relationship with Emily, could I ever fully trust her again? The tension was palpable. I decided to confront Jake. I needed answers from him directly. I called him and told him to meet me in person. When we sat down at a coffee shop, the air was thick with unspoken tension. Jake looked uncomfortable, like he knew what was coming. I wasted no time. "Why didn't you tell me what was really going on?" I asked, staring him down. "You've been helping Emily, but you've been lying to me too." Jake shifted in his seat. "I didn't know how to tell you," he said. "You weren't supposed to be involved. Emily didn't want you to know because she didn't want to drag you into the mess with her family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "And you just went along with it? You didn't think I had the right to know?" Jake looked guilty. "I didn't want to make things worse. I know it's messed up, but she was trying to protect you. She was trying to protect herself. The stuff with her family. It's dangerous. I thought you'd leave her if you knew." I ran my hand through my hair in frustration. "So what now? You think I should just forgive her? Pretend like none of this happened?" Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Look, I know it's messed up, but Emily really does care about you. She's been trying to get out of that world. This whole thing, it's bigger than both of you, and I think she was just trying to keep you safe." I shook my head. "I don't know what to believe anymore, Jake. I don't know if I can trust either of you." Jake sighed. "I get it. You're angry, and you have every right to be. But this is a complicated situation. It's not just about cheating or lies. It's about a whole lot more, and Emily needs help to get out of it. She's trying to get away from all of that." I leaned back in my chair, absorbing everything he said. It was a lot to take in, but something about Jake's sincerity made me think there was some truth to his words. Still, I was torn. Could I really forgive Emily for everything she'd hidden from me? Could I trust her again after all of this? I wasn't sure, but one thing was clear. I needed answers, and I wasn't going to make any decisions until I had all the facts. After my conversation with Jake, I couldn't shake the thought of what he said. It all made sense in a twisted way, but I still felt like something was missing. Emily had been hiding too much from me for too long, and even if her reasons were rooted in protecting me, it didn't change the fact that she had lied. But I wasn't ready to make any decisions yet, not without hearing her side fully. I needed to give her the chance to explain everything, without anyone else influencing the story. I called Emily and told her I needed to meet face to face. She agreed, and we set up a time at a park nearby. I had no idea what to expect, but the tension was unbearable as I waited for her to show up. When Emily arrived, she looked nervous. I could tell that she was still shaken from the conversation we had before. She had no idea what I knew, or at least I didn't think she did. But this time I wasn't going to let her off easy. We sat on a bench, and I started with the most straightforward question I could ask. "So, Tell me everything. I want to know everything you've been hiding from me. Emily took a deep breath. Her eyes were downcast, and she started talking, her voice shaking slightly as she explained the situation in more detail. She admitted to more than I had heard from Jake, revealing that her family wasn't just involved in petty crime. They were in deep with a dangerous criminal organization. Her dad, a figure I'd always believed to be just a quiet businessman, was involved in money laundering and had threatened her life when she tried to distance herself from his world. Emily confessed that she had been trying to get away from that life for years, and she hadn't known how to tell me without putting me at risk. I never wanted you to get involved in that mess, Emily said, her voice breaking. I thought it was better to keep you in the dark. I never wanted you to be a target. I didn't want anyone to hurt you. My mind was racing, but I tried to keep calm. So, everything we had, it was a lie? You didn't think I could handle the truth? You think I'm too weak to deal with your family's mess? No, it's not that, Emily pleaded. I didn't want you to have to deal with any of this. It's dangerous. It's not just about lying. It's about protecting you. But there was one thing I couldn't wrap my head around. But why cheat on me? Why would you do that if you cared about me? What does that have to do with protecting me? Emily was silent for a moment, avoiding my gaze. When she finally spoke, her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I was trying to make sure you'd leave me. I thought if you caught me cheating, you'd walk away on your own. I didn't want you to get dragged into my mess. I thought I was saving you by pushing you away. I stared at her in disbelief. So you thought cheating was the best way to protect me? Yes, she said softly. I know it sounds messed up, but I thought it was the only way. I knew if you saw me with someone else, you'd be angry enough to leave. I thought that would be better than the alternative. I was speechless. Her logic made no sense, yet I could see the pain in her eyes. She truly believed that cheating was the lesser evil in her twisted attempt to protect me from her family. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. She could have told me the truth. She could have trusted me to stand by her, and we could have figured it out together. But instead, she chose betrayal. Emily, I said, my voice low, you should have trusted me. You should have trusted me enough to tell me everything. I know, she whispered. I made a huge mistake. I sat back, my head spinning. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore. It was about the manipulation, the lies, the secrets. And I couldn't ignore that. No matter how much I cared about her, this was something I couldn't just let go. I need time to think, I said, standing up. I don't know if I can forgive you for this. As I walked away, I felt the weight of her words still hanging in the air. There was a part of me that wanted to believe her, that wanted to fix things. But I knew, deep down, that I couldn't go back to the person she was before. Something had broken, and it couldn't be repaired so easily. After our conversation, I spent days just trying to process everything Emily had told me. Her twisted attempt at protecting me by pushing me away had left me shaken, confused, and betrayed. I couldn't understand how someone who claimed to love me could go to such extremes. The idea that she thought cheating was the only way to protect me still echoed in my mind, and it didn't sit right. But I also understood her fear, her desperation to escape her family's dangerous world. Still, none of it justified what she had done. I spent a lot of time talking to friends about it, getting their perspectives. Some thought I should walk away completely, cut all ties and never look back. Others said I might want to hear her out one more time, give her the benefit of the doubt. But no matter who I talked to, the decision didn't feel any easier. My friends couldn't feel the history we shared, the good times, the love that I thought was there. But none of that seemed to matter now. What mattered was trust, and that trust had been shattered. One day, I decided to meet up with Emily again. I still wasn't sure what I wanted, but I knew I needed closure. If we were going to move forward, whether together or apart, I needed to hear her out one last time. When we met, it was clear that Emily had been struggling with this too. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying for days. But there was something different in the air. She didn't immediately apologize or beg me to take her back. Instead, she seemed to be trying to take responsibility for everything that had happened. Not just the cheating, but her entire pattern of hiding things from me. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she started, her voice quieter than before. And I know I've made mistakes that go beyond what I've told you. I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted to protect you, but I know that wasn't the right way. I listened closely, not wanting to interrupt, but feeling the weight of her words. I know that I should have been honest with you from the start, and maybe if I had, we wouldn't have gotten to this point. But the fear of my family's mess has always been with me. And I was wrong to drag you into it, to lie to you, and most of all, to cheat on you, she continued. I was selfish, and I thought I could protect us both by making you hate me. But that's not the answer. I should have trusted you. I stayed silent for a moment, taking in everything she said. There was something different in her tone now, a kind of raw honesty that I hadn't heard before. But despite her words, a part of me still couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I had been in a relationship with someone who thought so little of me that she believed making me angry enough to leave was the only solution. I understand what you're saying, Emily, I said slowly, but it doesn't change the fact that you lied to me, and you cheated on me. Trust is everything in a relationship. Without it, we have nothing. Emily nodded, tears welling in her eyes again. I know. I ruined that trust. And I don't expect you to forgive me right away, or even at all. I just wanted you to know the truth. No more lies. I looked at her, feeling the weight of everything we had been through. I appreciate you being honest now. But honestly, I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. It feels like the foundation of everything we had is gone. Emily's face crumbled, and for a moment, I almost felt pity for her. She had been living in a lie for so long that I wondered if she had ever truly understood what love meant, or if she was just trying to survive. But the truth was, I couldn't fix this. I couldn't undo the hurt she had caused by trying to manipulate me, no matter how much she regretted it now. I think it's time for us to go our separate ways, I said firmly, standing up. I'm not angry with you anymore, but I can't stay with someone who doesn't trust me enough to be honest. She nodded, understanding. I get it. I really do. As I walked away from Emily one last time, I knew it was the right decision. My trust in her had been broken beyond repair, and no amount of apologies or explanations could fix that. I needed to move on and start healing. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't fair, but it was necessary. It had been a few weeks since I last saw Emily, and the weight of our breakup still lingered, but I was starting to feel like myself again. At first, I didn't know how to navigate the silence or the emptiness. We had been a part of each other's lives for so long that the sudden absence felt like a huge void. But with time, I began to realize that the space she left behind wasn't just empty. It was a space I could fill with things that mattered more. My own well-being, my friends, and my future. The hardest part was seeing Emily in public. We lived in the same city, and even though I tried to avoid places I knew she frequented, sometimes our paths crossed. When it happened, there was always that awkward moment, the pause, where neither of us knew what to say. I remember the first time it happened after we broke up. I was at the grocery store, and I saw her from a distance. My heart skipped a beat, and for a second, I considered turning around and leaving. But then I reminded myself that I had to face this. I had to face her, and not let the past control me anymore. I didn't approach her. I didn't feel the need to. Instead, I just kept walking, not looking back. And that was when I realized that I was finally healing. It was a small moment. Months went by, and I thought I had finally put everything behind me. I was moving on with my life, focused on my career and hanging out with friends. But then, one day, I got an unexpected message from Emily. It was a simple text, "We need to talk." At first, I thought it was just one of those awkward attempts to make peace, but curiosity got the best of me. I agreed to meet up at a coffee shop. What happened next was something I never saw coming. When we sat down, she didn't start with an apology. Instead, she jumped straight into something else. Emily revealed that the guy she had been cheating on me with wasn't just some random fling. No, it was much worse than that. Turned out, the guy was actually her therapist, someone she had been seeing to work through her past trauma. Apparently, their sessions had crossed some very inappropriate lines. According to her, they started bonding over shared experiences, and then it escalated. She admitted that she felt like she couldn't talk to anyone else about her emotions, and the lines between therapy and personal life got blurred. I was in shock. My girlfriend had an affair with her therapist. The betrayal hit me on a whole new level. Not just a regular cheating situation, but something far more twisted and unprofessional. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could someone take advantage of that level of trust? But even more surprising was how Emily was still trying to justify it. She wasn't apologizing for the hurt she caused me, but more for the complicated situation she found herself in. She claimed she was confused and didn't realize the full extent of her actions until after the affair was over. I listened, but the more she spoke, the more I realized this was beyond me. She had crossed so many lines, not only with me but with someone in a position of authority and trust. I couldn't even process everything at once. I just told her I needed to move on and never wanted to hear from her again. Emily left, and I was left with a whirlwind of emotions. I felt sad, angry, but strangely relieved. Her revealing this twisted truth made me realize just how deep her issues went, and that she was never really the person I thought she was. But ultimately, I was stronger now. I knew I had to leave the past behind and keep moving forward. It wasn't just a relationship that had ended. It was a wake-up call that sometimes the people we trust the most can betray us in the worst ways. I couldn't let her or anyone else drag me back into that mess. So, I made a vow to myself. No more looking back, only forward from here on out.